powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast on this happy hour Friday. It's the final Friday for me. I'll be out next week, but one more chance for me to catch up with Adam Caplan from InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast. And, of course, the Inside the Birds pre- and post-game show. They'll be live tomorrow with the Eagles and the Cowboys as they get ready for the Eagles-Cowboys matchup. And, of course, Football at 4 on this Friday is brought to you by EMT Solar and Roofing. See if your home qualifies for a free roof with solar installation. No commitments, no hidden fees. Go to ESPNSolar.com to see if you qualify. Let's bring in Adam Caplan here on this Friday as we get ready for Eagles and Cowboys. Adam, you know, the 23 combined wins from these teams, it's the most in 124 Eagles-Cowboys meetings. Did you know that?
No, I did not know that. By the way, I'll give you a little bit of a scoop here. This just came down from the Eagles, so a bunch of roster moves. Christian Ellis was signed off the practice squad because he was out of elevations. Brett Kern, of course, was elevated from the practice squad. Tyree Jackson put on IR. Now, Zach Pascal, this is really good news. He suffered concussion in the last game. He got out of the injury report on Wednesday, and he went for the walkthrough yesterday, and he practiced yesterday some, and he got cleared today before the flight. So he will be available. That is huge news because that way they don't have to add a receiver off the practice squad.
Right. So obviously we knew already that Jalen Hurts was not going to be a play in the game. So Hurts is out, Tyree Jackson is out, Pascal, Blankenship, and Kayvon Wallace. And Blankenship is key because obviously C.J. Gardner-Johnson is not back, so that gives a little bit more added depth to the safety position.
Yeah, Gardner-Johnson will serve the fourth game of the 4-game IR, and then they'll see where he's at next week. He would be eligible to start practicing next week, but there's been no sign that, excuse me, Mike, that he will. So, look, Blankenship, here's the great thing. Blankenship, not only will he play, the only question now will be, will he play the entire game? Now, he told the media that he's 100%. We'll have to see. But he's going to play, and that's huge. He only missed one game.
Yeah, Blankenship and Wallace, they kind of handle that position. Wallace played last week. They signed Anthony Harris, of course, the week before. But this is a healthy team other than the Hurts thing. They're starting to get everybody back here. Now, let's look on the other side of the coin, the Cowboys. Their injury situation for tomorrow looks like what?
Yeah, so with Micah Parsons, it was a little scary because he missed 2 days of practice. They've had issues, Mike, with illnesses. They've had players miss games due to illness, but they expect him to play, though he's listed as questionable. Leighton Vander Esch, their middle linebacker, will not play due to a neck injury. And then they've had a bunch of changes on the offensive line. So what they've done here is Terrence Steele, their starting right tackle, tore his ACL recently. He's out. He tore it 2 weeks ago. He's done for the season, obviously, and he'll be done until next summer. So Tyron Smith, who just came off IR last week, he started at right tackle. He had not played right tackle before. Jason Peters also got snaps at right tackle, and he played right tackle a little bit, I'm told, last year for the Bears and earlier this season. But he's a left tackle, as we know, Mike. So that was a little bit interesting. And they've got 2 corners on IR, so a little bit light at corner. And you know the Eagles, they'll throw the football, and they'll go at those positions.
Absolutely, and that's what Jacksonville did last week, Adam. They went after the injured side of the ball. They went away from Diggs, and they just picked on the other side. And, with Gardner Minshew out there, we will kind of take a look at, what that means. But before we get to all that in the game, let's look at the Eagles' depth on this roster because 8 Pro Bowlers. It kind of really shows you just the depth of this team, and they really could have had more.
Honestly, look, the one that bothered me, I'm not a fan, but just from a watching and viewership standpoint and seeing how great Josh Sweat has been. Josh Sweat's like one of their 5 best players. See, the problem with the way that the Pro Bowl is picked, it's too much of a popularity contest. Let's put it this way. Landon Dickerson has had a nice year. He's improved. I mean, here's the thing. He got voted in as a starter. Again, you could argue whether he should be a Pro Bowler or not. That's fine. But as starter, I didn't see that. And the fact that Josh Sweat is one of the best players didn't make it is hard to believe. But again, the thing that I always understand is that not everyone can make it because there are only so many spots. I get that. But it's too bad. Josh Sweat absolutely earned it.
Well,
that was of all the guys.
Did you hear?
Yeah.
Do you ever watch the Manning cast at all?
I haven't watched it in a long time. I would enjoy it. I just haven't watched it.
I don't watch it at all this year either, but I see a lot of the clips on social media. I guess, with Buck and Aikman, I'm kind of back on the games here, but last year. But one of the stories that Peyton Manning told in the Manning cast a couple weeks ago, when Bill Belichick was coaching the team, he had picked this guy to be on the Pro Bowl team. And
I saw that story.
He was dating J-Lo at the time, and he said, well, where's J-Lo? I think it was J-Lo. He said, well, where's J-Lo? She said, oh, she didn't come. He goes, well, then why did I pick you to be on the team then? So it seems that people get picked to be on this.
It was whoever the woman was. No, it was was it the long snapper who was dating a model or so?
Yeah, it was a long snapper, I think, from Buffalo or something. Right.
That's the best thing. Like that, I would have loved to have heard this. I don't doubt that Peyton's said it or doubt that he didn't hear it. I mean, I'm sure he did. I just would have loved for NFL films because, Belichick loves NFL films. He's been, he let them film him, for a season in his club. I would have loved to have heard him say that. That would have been hilarious.
Yes, absolutely. But that just gives you a little indication sometimes of the thought process on who gets a Pro Bowl bid and how much it really means. But the Eagles.
Honestly, I'm not going to name the player because the guy didn't give me permission, but I'll tell you, a former Eagles player, this is many years ago, player everybody would recognize. So I saw him in the hall. I said, hey, man, congratulations on the Pro Bowl. He goes, man, I don't vote for that stuff. He goes, my vote goes PR. I let PR vote for him. I don't care about that stuff.
Yeah.
Because he said it's a joke, the process. I was like, okay. Now, they've revised it over the years, but still, to me, no offense to the fans, I really should. In fact, the media should not be allowed to vote for it, and no one should be allowed to vote for it, other than I think coaches or front office people, because they're the ones that have the best information.
All right, Adam Caplan, Football at 4. Let's look at the game and get some thoughts here, because the matchups, the Eagles' offense, Gardner Minshew. How does that change this matchup against the Eagles? The Dallas secondary.
This is obviously the biggest story of the game is with Hurts there and not there, and he's obviously a major part of the run game. How's this going to change? They're not going to change the approach in terms of passing. The Eagles are still going to be a passing team, but the running game will go through Sanders. That's where it's going to go, and I know people are outraged for not getting a carry through the first 4 series well into the second quarter. It's not going to happen this game. Now, how they come out doesn't mean that they won't throw the ball a lot. I'm sure they will in the first half. They typically do that. Now, in the first Dallas game, they got up 20-0, so they didn't throw a ball a ton in the first half. This game's on the road, though. The Eagles, Mike, best road record. Not only this season, they're 7-0. They've won 9 straight on the road. Their approach typically is to throw. We saw what happened with the wind last week. They didn't care about the wind, the swirling wind at Soldier Field. They threw the ball. They came out throwing a lot. And you saw that Hurts had a fantastic game in terms of downfield throwing. So certainly had some mistakes in the game, but he still played all right. Minshew, the big issue with Minshew is he doesn't have a very strong arm. It's a short to intermediate arm. You'll see Dallas Goedert, who's back. He's not listed on the injury report coming off of IR. He's going to be heavily involved. So, Mike, overall here, there's still pass. I'm going to give Gardner Minshew 32 attempts in this game. And they'll run the ball a decent amount in this game because the one thing you definitely can do is you could run on the Cowboys. They don't have a very good run defense, about 133 per game.
Yeah, and that brings us to Miles Sanders because the last time, Sanders has just had an outstanding season. Cowboys front 7, they have had problems all season long. We know that Dallas is not very good against the run.
Yeah, and obviously if they get a big lead, they obviously can do it. They could just pound it away with Sanders and go in that direction. I would expect them to do that. But overall here, the good thing is from a personnel standpoint, they match up really well. And the other thing is they are not good in the secondary. It's one thing I should have mentioned. They've had 2 guys get hurt at corner. So and Kelvin Joseph has been benched a couple times. In fact, last week he got his snaps reduced. So remember now, they're down 2 corners who are all on IR who won't return this season. And then you've got Kelvin Joseph struggling, a former second rounder out of Kentucky. So when the Eagles throw the ball, and they'll throw it, they'll be successful. The only thing is, though, the lack of downfield passing. That is not – the shot plays, you're not going to see that here. You might see a pass 20 yards, but you're not going to see much farther.
Yeah, to me, see if you agree, Adam, this is more where Hurts would be the guy, taking downfield shots, and he was kind of the play. Now, Minshew is going to be more of like a point guard, just kind of saying, here, quick, get it out, and you guys make the plays. Let the receivers be the stars.
You saw with Goddard last year against the Jets on those over routes, but they weren't really far downfield. They were like 15 yards downfield and running after catch. You're right. It's going to be more of a rack game. And he had exceptional practice on Wednesday. I know Sirianni talked about it briefly, but what I was told was super, super accurate. He wasn't there Tuesday. Everybody knows that by now. He was at Mike Leach's funeral, so he wasn't part of their walkthrough, but he didn't miss a beat. Now, this is a huge game for him, Mike. There's no doubt. He wants to try to at least compete for a starting job somewhere else next year. We'll see if he gets a chance to do that. He's on the final year of his rookie deal. I know the Eagles will want him back, but we'll see if he has a chance to be a starter somewhere else. But they're glad to have him, and they're in really good shape here. That's the other thing about this team and why they're so good and why they have the NFL's best roster. They have really good depth.
Yeah, the Eagles, as we mentioned, with the Pro Bowlers, and it's not just the Pro Bowlers. It's the fact that they have really good depth as well. And Gardner Minshew is probably one of the top backup quarterbacks. He has a 41-12 touchdown to interception ratio, which I think I read the stat that he's top 5 in the league with that stat since 2019.
The only one, Mike, though, just to let you know, he had 7 lost fumbles in 2019. So that's the key is small hands. That's one thing. That's the one knock that he has. But you're right on the interception to touchdown ratio.
Yeah, he's been really good in that spot. Let's look at Goddard and his return, and then obviously how that couples with Minshew. Is Goddard going to be game planned right back into a big role here?
Yeah, this is another question. Yeah, I would say yes, because he told the media, look, he was ready last week. The MRIs were clean last week. They just decided to hold him out for whatever reason. It could have been the weather. Who knows? Sirianni didn't really answer the question. It could have been the very cold weather and the wind last week. Who the heck knows? But he's back. I would expect him to play a lot, and now they're down to 3 tight ends for this game. Now, it's not a big Tyree Jackson. The shame of it is that he's down for the rest of the regular season, and he also has to miss a game in the playoffs because they would have to serve one more game on injured reserve. So that's disappointing. He doesn't get to continue his comeback here from ACL reconstruction, but they'll dress 3 tight ends for this game, and Goddard will be one of them, and they'll just go that way. And Jack Stoll's the number 2. Calcaterra will come in occasionally, and now that we know because we were talking about that on our show, if Pascal couldn't play, they could probably use Calcaterra to be that extra big receiver.
The offensive line, we know the Eagles very good. How's that matchup with that Dallas defensive front? Because Dallas is a team that does get a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and they've upped their man coverage. They'll do that. They will blitz. They'll stunt. They've got a pretty stout defensive line. The Eagles will be able to they really handled them in the first game. No problem there. I would expect the Eagles here to hold their own. They'll be Minshew because he has not played since last season. There might be the first quarter. There might be a little bit of a feeling out process for him because it's been so long since he's played. We have to be realistic here. I think by the course of the game, I think he'll be fine. I think he's actually going to play well. I believe that based on we had John DiFilippo on our Patreon subscriber base. We gave them a bonus. We got John on within 24 hours. We knew that Minshew was going to play, so we were like, all right, let's just get John on. And he talked about what this kid brings to the table. And what he did say, and amongst about 100 things in our 20-minute interview with him, is that the moment was never big for him. You have to remember, in 2019, his rookie season, right? Nick Foles breaks his collarbone in the first game of the season, and he comes in, and he plays great, and he played really well that season. And that's a tribute to the kid. He's also very smart. He's not rattled at all. And I think he's going to handle the moment pretty well here.
Yeah, I agree. He's the kind of guy that, you just saw how he handled the Mike Leach thing and the fact, he spoke. And he said, look, if it's not for Leach, I'm probably coaching, which tells you a lot about he thinks the game. He's a guy who understands. If I'm not playing, I'm still coaching. Smart guy. Let's look at the defense here. The Cowboys offense, Dak Prescott, flashes, obviously makes some big plays, and then of course he has the interceptions issues. I think he leads the league in interceptions since he's returned from injury here. What will he see with the Eagles defense?
Yeah, the thing is, we mentioned the offensive line issues. It's really just a right tackle. It's a little bit weird, but Tyron Smith showed he came back from the torn hamstring. His hamstring was torn off the bone very early in the season, but he is back. I would expect them to run their stunts. They're becoming not a heavy stunt team, but they've been stunting more lately. Boy, they get home. I don't know. No one really keeps this percentage. You could get the percentage of stunts, but it's a percentage of stunts that work. They really do well. Not just sacks off of it. I'm talking about overall pressures. They do really well with it. To me, I think they're going to be fine here. I think they'll be able to get pressure on Prescott. Prescott's been inconsistent since he's come back. No question about it. They're not great at receiver. CeeDee Lamb's a fine player. He's not explosive. He's good at running after the catch. He'll play inside and outside. They move him around pretty well. They motion him. They motion to the slot as well. Michael Gallup is not the same player he once was before his ACL injury, where he was one of NFL's elite deep threats. That's why they brought in T.Y. Hilton, who's going to play in this game for the first time, by the way, since last season for the Colts. So keep an eye on that. It's just a matter of watching Tony Pollard. That guy worries me in this game if you're an Eagles fan. He's a playmaker. He's had a breakout season. And by the way, he's a free agent after the season.
Yes, he is. And Elliott Pollard versus that front seven of the Eagles. It'll be interesting to see how, that's always a big question for Dallas. Are they going to run the ball enough with those two guys? Because when they run the ball, they're tough.
Yeah, and they will make a commitment to doing it. There's no doubt. And Elliott, Mike, has looked a lot better lately. He actually has improved. He's not what he once was, but he looked awful last year. He had a PCL sprain, which lingered most of the season. He's back and he's been solid. Now he's going to have to take a realistic approach to his future because he's making too much money next year, and they have leverage because there's no guaranteed money left in this deal.
Yeah, by the way, Elliott has 7 straight games with a rushing touchdown, and Pollard and Elliott are the first running backs duo to each score 10 touchdowns since 1978. Dorsett and Newhouse were the two backs at the time for the Dallas Cowboys. There you go, right? And then the wide receivers, Lamb, Gallup, Noah Brown, they're matched up with obviously Slay, Bradbury, and then, of course, what they did last week with Devontae Maddox, getting him back a couple weeks ago, that has added to this secondary as well.
Yeah, again, with Maddox back, he'll see a lot of CeeDee Lamb. I think the Eagles will fare really well. Dallas could have to throw them the ball more than they like if they get behind, which is pretty much the story of any team that's behind in the fourth quarter. But I think the Eagles will hold their own. I don't think they'll have their moments. Dalton Schultz, by the way, didn't play in the first game. He crushed them last season. But the Eagles will be tested. There's no doubt, but they should be able to handle it well because getting Blankenship back is really big. We can't underestimate that. That's a pretty big deal.
Dalton Schultz, the tight end, nice pass catcher here. You got, the tight end has not been a huge problem for the Eagles because obviously they've upgraded their linebacking situation.
Yeah, they cover well. There's no doubt, Mike. And I expect them to match up really well. And, T.J. Edwards does not get enough credit for how good he's been in coverage. That was a real knock on him that he couldn't cover anybody. That's no longer the case. He's actually pretty good in coverage.
Yeah, he's been. It's going to be interesting to see how they handle this linebacking core. You would imagine Edwards is the guy they target to bring back here, but both those guys, free agents, both have had really good years. And then the Cowboys' offensive line against this Eagles defense run. The Eagles have had 6 or more sacks in 3 straight games, and Dallas has had some problems up front.
Yeah, and as I mentioned with the stunning, I think they'll be able to do it. And the good thing is Eagles are so deep on the defensive line, and the big deal here is Linval Joseph. Mike has just been incredible, stopping the run. He's been a big reason. That's why Jordan Davis, by the way, doesn't play very much. In fact, he's really not playing much nose tackle. He's playing a little bit more of the 3 technique, which is by the way, I'm told one of the positions they want him to play in the future. He's not just going to be a nose tackle, Jordan Davis, next year. If Cox isn't back, he'll play nose. He'll play 3 technique. He's a multi-position player. I don't think people knew that when they got him, but that was always their plan when they drafted him.
All right, Eagles, Cowboys tomorrow right here on 97.3 ESPN. Football at 4. Adam Caplan and the guys at Inside the Birds. Make sure you check out their pregame show tomorrow. Is that staying at the same time, 10 o'clock?
Oh, yeah. 10 a to 12 p. Myself, Mosher, Cosell, and Avant. Can't wait. Best pregame show by far on TV or the small screen. We do it like no one else. There's no shouting. It's all inside stuff. You'll be a better fan. No shouting. We don't recite a bunch of stats. We actually want you to keep some information when you watch. We're going to teach you the game like nobody else. We appreciate everybody's support.
That's tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Check that out. And then the post-game show as well. And, of course, back here next week on Football at 4 as the Cowboys renew their rivalry. Adam, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Holidays, all that good stuff to you, pal.
Same to you. Thank you.